Welcome back, guys, to another video. This is a morning workout talk. It's Monday. I'm on the road right now. It's 4:26 a.m. It's so dark outside that I had to put on the lights in my car in order for you guys to see me. Because if these lights were off, it'd be so dark you guys wouldn't be able to see me as I'm talking and driving right now. I don't really have a particular topic in mind. I just know that I'm very big on being consistent. So if I've been doing these videos about morning workout talks consistently, I figured every morning that I'm going to work, that I'm going to the gym and going to work, and on the days I go to the gym, I'm going to just, do my best to just unleash a couple of things that are on my mind. And even if I don't have anything on my mind per se, I'll figure out something to talk about. But I do have something on my mind. I want to share something personal with you guys. My mother right now is going through a lot. She has something that you call hydrocephalus. It's when you have fluid from the cerebrospinal fluid that goes up into the brain, and it starts swelling in the head, and it causes dizziness, it causes brain fog, it causes blurry vision, and in some cases, if left untreated or left attended to, it can be lethal, it can be deadly. And right now my mom is in a lot of pain, but even prior to this hydrocephalus stuff, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know, causes or anything like that, but I know that she's complained about this hydrocephalus for about 2 years now. And it's just a lot going on. Her mental state started to kind of decline. Not that she was suffering from any signs of dementia, Alzheimer's, nothing like that. She was just, she would get into these episodes where it's like high radical shifts in behavior, where she's, at some point she's really low, where she's not hardly talking, she's not bathing, she's not doing anything. And then she gets to points where sometimes where she's like Superwoman, where she's trying to do everything. And I'm telling you guys this because these behaviors that we've been seeing for probably for the past 7 years, I believe, maybe 6 years, they've been uncommon. These aren't common behaviors that we saw of my mother growing up. And some of it is linked to trauma, because she did lose her husband, my dad, abruptly, suddenly, in 1996. She still talks about it. Well, she still talked about it for many years later. Recently, I haven't heard her talk about it much, but everyone handles grief differently. She also had a traumatic upbringing as well, and I don't know how all those things work together, to impact the brain and impact behavior and impact a person's perspective and worldview. But I know that we are all beings that are comprised of chemicals. And whenever you have an evident case of chemical imbalances in the brain, be it due to trauma or be it due to drug use, if it's induced by drugs, then you'll have change in behavior and change in thinking. However, some of the things that my mom is going through, a lot of it is self-imposed. When you live a life when you lack self-confidence in yourself, or you have a misalignment with purpose. So when I say misalignment with purpose, it means that you are a person that's aligning your purpose of living with something that's totally irrelevant. To give you an example, there are certain people who live to please other people, or there are certain people who live to to put out a certain image about themselves to appease the masses. So in other words, everything I do because I'm doing things based upon what people think about me. Or I don't want to do this because I don't want people to think this about me. Or I'm going to do this because I want people to think this about me. So it's as if a person is allowing others to dictate their lives, so they become your master and you become the slave of people. But it's not rooted in reality. It's all in the head of the person. And I believe that's the way my mom lived her life. Now that I'm taking a retrospective look and looking back in the past and seeing some of the things that she did and some of the things that she would say, it was all predicated on what others thought. And it's quite hilarious and ironic that I'm totally the opposite. I don't give a damn what other people think. So much so that I'm to the opposite extreme on that end. I just do what I feel is right for me. I don't care how it makes you feel. Am I self-aware? Of course I'm self-aware. I'm not going to do anything that I know for a fact is going to harm somebody else. I'm aware of that aspect. I'm not so oblivious to that where I'm so stuck in my own head, being so self-absorbed to the point where I'm not factoring in what my actions may do to other people. I'm very aware of what my actions may do to other people. But in that regard, that's how far it goes in terms of thinking about others. I'm not doing, like, even the things I talk about on my YouTube channel, I talk about things that I care about. I don't care how many clicks or views I get. Of course, I listen to people's opinions and I consider what people say, but I'm not revolving my life or my thought process based upon what others think, because everyone is entitled to think the way they think. But it's been rough for me for some months. I had a little bit of a hard time going to bed last night because I kept thinking about my mom. Right now, she's at home. She has some visitors that are staying with her that are kind of keeping an eye on her. She's supposed to be having the shunt procedure, the surgical procedure, April 2nd, to help release the fluid in her brain. And it's frustrating because I believe last week she was in the hospital. They had the opportunity to do it, but she kept being indecisive. Her indecisiveness caused the doctors to say, look, man, we got to discharge her. Because you know how hospitals work. It's a business. When you're taking up a room, you're taking up a bed, that's money. And everything else was fine with my mom. They proceeded to do the lumbar puncture, which is the first thing that they did. The lumbar puncture was more of a diagnostic approach to see what's causing the hydrocephalus. And sometimes the lumbar puncture would allow my mom, give my mom a little bit of temporary relief. But in this case, they weren't doing it as a remedy to hydrocephalus. They were doing it as a diagnostic approach to see what's causing the hydrocephalus. So after they committed to doing the lumbar puncture, they went ahead and said, okay, we're going to do the shunt procedure, which is a surgical procedure that I think they stick a tube in the brain, and the tube extracts the liquid that goes to your stomach. I'm not a doctor, don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the way it's supposed to go. And she was there. She said yes, she was going to consent to it. Then she didn't consent to it. Then later on, she wanted to consent to it. Then she didn't. So it got to a point where the hospital just discharged her, because they're not going to just keep a patient in a hospital wasting their money because they feel as if, okay, there's no more drugs to dispense. She's just sitting here. The only reason why she was sitting there is because she was waiting for surgery, because surgeries need to be done in a hospital, not in a clinic. That kind of procedure, at least, needs to be done in a hospital. And so they discharged her. So they told her that she has to do the procedure now as an outpatient. So we go from being in the hospital last week to now having to wait almost 2 weeks to get the procedure done. And the reason why it's frustrating because she's in pain, a lot of pain. I asked her the other day when I came to the house. I said, "Mom, your pain from a tolerance of 1 to 10, what's your pain like?" She said 25. You know, and the pain. If you guys know of anyone in your family that's ever had that, you understand that it's very painful to the point where sometimes people they want to die. It's that painful. You know, I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. With that being said, and it's just seeing my mom have a decline mentally, and for some time now, I know my dad transitioned in 1996, many years ago, but I believe that my mom is slowly transitioning as well. It's a sad state to accept. It's a sad state of reality that we live in, that we all experience pain in our own way. And she's not the same woman. You can see it in her eyes. Sometimes she's delusional. Even when she's in her highs and lows, she's talking about things that aren't in reality. Just thinking that she has businesses a lot, that she's gonna open a business here and open a business there. She can't even take care of her house. These visitors that are staying there, they're the ones that are help cleaning the house. She's been admitted to mental health clinics to help stabilize her mentally. And usually what they do, they just pump them full of drugs to put them in a zombie-like state. There's no cure for that. The only cure for that would be, natural remedies, in my opinion. But that approach is much more. That approach is much more not difficult, but it's slower. You have to commit to it. It's not a give me a drug and fix my problems kind of approach. And Western medicine is deeply embedded in that type of practice. They love to just dispense medicines and think that chemical restraints are the way to mitigate problems. I mean, it's a short-term solution, but it's not a long-term solution. She's been there several times. She's been, I think, like 3 or 4 times already. And usually things get pretty bad when we have to call for help. We're 3. I have an older sister, I'm the middle, and I have a younger brother. So we all try to help when we can. And it's been tough to handle, I admit. But you wouldn't tell by just looking at me. I don't wear it on my sleeves. I don't go around like with this victim mentality or like, oh, woe is me, look at what's going on. Because I understand that there are thousands and hundreds and thousands and millions of other people in the world that are dealing with their own issues. That's the reality we live in. Babies are born every day and people die every day. Some people gain knowledge every day, and some people losing their minds every day. That's the wicked cycle that we are all in right now, and that we've always been in. It's just part of being a human being. Is what comes with being alive, and is what comes with being in this reality. And it's tough to see the woman that was your mother, you just see her deteriorating right in front of your eyes. And I mean, she's in bed, she can't get out. Like she's wearing I don't know what you call those, those adult diapers. I forgot, there's another name for them, but she's been soiling on herself. My sister went there, I believe yesterday, to help change her and clean her up. And this is a woman that we saw just take care of us after my dad transitioned, and she was like Superwoman to us. She, working working overnights, working 2 or 3 jobs, doing all that she can as a nurse. She was a nurse, very hardworking. But there were certain signs that I saw back then, even when she was, I guess, what you would consider normal. I believe she still had that. I believe she still had those symptoms of a person who wasn't mentally stable. But as children, we didn't understand the medical industry. We didn't understand the psychology of the human mind. But now that I'm older with my own kids, when my mom would stay up late, never going to sleep, she would go to these African parties, then come home at like 4 in the morning, and then go to work. And I'm thinking to myself, like, but you didn't even sleep. How do you go to work? She really never slept. And when I say never, of course, I'm being hyperbolic. I don't mean that she literally never slept. But when I say never slept, I mean getting sound sleep. Anybody who works overnights, you're going against your circadian rhythm. You're inverting your circadian rhythm, because the human being was meant to, when you're talking about the relationship between serotonin and melatonin, you understand that the human experience is supposed to be endowed with those two things working harmoniously together, meaning that in the daytime you're supposed to be up, in nighttime you're supposed to be asleep. You're not supposed to be up. We're not nocturnal. We're not supposed to be up throughout the night, right? And then sleeping throughout the day. That's not the way the human body is supposed to operate. And my mom operated like that for such a long time. She worked so hard and didn't really take care of her health. And hence, that's why I am the way I am. It's funny that the things that I saw my parents do, I'm looking at it and I'm doing the opposite. I don't care about money as long as I have my bare necessities. Like, I have a Hyundai Accent. I don't have a lavish car. I'm not into materials. As long as I have a vehicle that gets me to point A to point B. I would rather spend $1 million on my health than spend $1 million on a car, or $1 million on clothes and shoes and things that people put a lot of energy to give off an image of being okay and being wealthy. What good is it to have all the money in the world and you're sick? Oh, I know what good is to have all the money in the world, because if you have all the money in the world, you end up using that money to help remedy your illnesses. You end up giving it back to the system to help heal you. Surgeries, medicines, hospital visits, tests. They bill you to death. You know how these hospitals do. It's a business. It has nothing to do with health. It's an industry like every other industry. It's a corporation like any other corporation. America, the government, nobody gives a damn about your health, because if they did, they would do away with all these processed foods. They would eliminate them tomorrow. They would eliminate everything tomorrow. They would make it illegal to purchase processed foods. McDonald's, Jack in the Box, all those fast food restaurants that are serving poisons would be burned. If health was that important, they would eliminate stores that sell alcohol. You wouldn't see an alcoholic store right next to a doctor's clinic, and I've seen that a couple of times. I'm like, how ironic is that? You have a clinic right next to the alcohol store. How perfect. Drink, get yourself sick, inundate your liver with toxins to the point you get cirrhosis of the liver, and right next to that alcohol store, you have a hospital that you could come into, not to necessarily heal you, just to get more money off of you. No. So that's why even my dad, had a heart attack at work, or a brain aneurysm at work, but it was because of his health. High blood pressure, he was in his 40s, mid 40s, young, because I'm in my 40s right now, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty young to transition. But back then, I'm 14, 15 years old. I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, my dad was old. He wasn't old. Age is relative to the eye of the beholder. So I'm sure to an elementary student and a student that's in middle school, I'm old to them, but to me, I'm young. I don't feel old. I don't even know. I'm just, everybody's age is relative to what they do to themselves. You have people who are my age talking about, oh, I'm getting old. I don't even speak on those terms. I just live life, continue to move, and just continue to live as if I am young, because I am young in the mind. My body feels young. When I was younger, when people were in their 40s, I would hear so many things. Oh, I used to be able to do this. Yeah, we understand there are going to be certain things that you cannot do the same way that you could when you were younger, but I don't speak those. I don't use those terms to cast, an aura or cast a frequency around myself and have me to live in that debilitative mindset, because it's debilitative, because words are powerful. That's why you have to spell words. You're casting spells upon yourself when you tell yourself certain things. So yeah, that's what I'm going through right now with my mom, and it's been heavy. Not now. I've been going through it. It's been an up and down roller coaster for quite some time, and that's why I'm doing my best as a father to make sure that as my kids are getting older, I don't want them to go through what I'm going through. I want to be able to have all my faculties intact when they're getting older, to talk with my kids, to not have a brain that's not functioning properly, where I'm all over the place. I don't want to put that burden on them. And I understand we all get old and we're going to go through those things, but there's certain people who don't have to go through that. My grandmother who transitioned in Nigeria, she lived to be over 100 years old. I think she was 101. She still had her mental faculties intact, to the point where she was like, look, man, I'm ready to go. She can talk to you. She still walked around. She still had energy. It's just that at some point, your body just gives out because it's too old. But she wasn't. The state that my mom is in her 70s right now, my grandmother, living 30 years older than my mom, was in a more mental stable state than my mother right now. Because in Nigeria and in that country, especially in the continent of Africa, their diet is different, especially in the regions that are not trying to adopt the American lifestyle. Everyone has made themselves believe, not everyone, but the majority of people, especially people in countries that are riddled with ignorance, they believe that somehow, some way, that America has the best of the best. It's actually contrary. The truth is contrary to that perception, to that misnomer. America has the worst. They have the worst foods. We have the worst diet. We have the worst education system. We have the worst mindset. We have the worst spiritual system. This is modern Rome, but it's dressed up in glamour and glitz. It's dressed up in the lore of materialism. We are cargo worshippers. We worship cargo. What do I mean by cargo? Materials. It's like cargo cults. We are stuck in that mode of thinking, where we're trying to get the next new thing, the next new phone, the next new car, the next bigger house, the next guy, buy. Why do you think Amazon does so well? We're always purchasing things. We're blinded by materials, that we can't set aside materials for a second and focus on the virtues of life. Focus on the things that are more steeped in nobility. We don't do those things. All right? So that's why my grandmother lived long. She walked. She moved around. She was active. She didn't sit in the house all day watching television like many of Americans do today. She wasn't stressed. Those things matter, folks. Why do you think I work out and do the things I do? I do the things that are contrary to what other people do. And you say, well, other people work out, but it's not just working out. It's my diet. It's my working out. It's the way I think. It's meditating. It's being intentional about sitting in the sun. It's not focusing on what everybody else focuses on. Even the situation I'm going through with my mom, I try not to let it overburden me. I mean, even me talking about it here, on YouTube, is a way of therapy in a sense, because I'm talking it out. I'm not having a conversation with anybody, but I'm speaking my truth and speaking out my feelings. These are all processes of dealing with things in our lives. So, yeah, man, it's 4:51. I'm going to start getting my stuff ready, because I got to get my battle ropes and put them in my little wagon. I have this little wagon thing that I have to bring it with me, because I can't carry all that stuff with me. A lot of people look at me, they're like, man, I like that idea. I have all my workout equipment in this little wagon that I bought from Academy, and I just pull it. I have my blazer back here that I'm going to be wearing to work, so I got to put that in there, put that in the locker as I'm working out. But just wanted to let you guys know what was on my mind on this morning workout talk. And thank you guys for indulging me. And and hopefully my mom gets this surgery done April 2nd and she feels a little better. I read online that it's supposed to, provide relief. But even if it doesn't, it's not a cure. It just provides relief from the pressure. But my mother is still going to have to do her part to live a healthier life, because she really didn't live a healthy life. I mean, she ate whatever she felt like eating. She didn't work out. She didn't go for walks. You know how sometimes you see elderly people walking? She doesn't do all that. All she does is think about money and think about her mortgage. And she also told me one time that that's a trigger for her when she's thinking about money, and when she's thinking about, because she retired years ago, and the money that she's receiving through her Social Security is just enough for her to pay her mortgage, but it doesn't help her cover other bills. So she's constantly trying to do things to gain extra income, whether it's going to Goodwill to buy a bunch of things to sell out of her garage, or allowing people to come stay with her to pay her rent, to rent a room out in her house. But sometimes these people that she allows to stay with her take advantage of her. It's been a lot. It's been a lot for some years now. So we're just trying to be more proactive as siblings to help her out, to help her situation out. But that's my story, man. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Those things were heavy on my mind. All right, thank you guys for indulging me, and until Wednesday, I'll do another morning talk on Wednesday. All right, thank you guys. Bye.